Have you ever experienced a situation that made you super upset or angry, and instead of releasing those emotions onto what made you angry, you instead release them onto something that is totally unrelated? Now, most of you probably said yes to that, and honestly, that's because emotions are a really difficult and complex thing. But with more emotional awareness, I feel like the emotional regulation and the direction of which we release those emotions can really be controlled. Now, first, let me tell you a time of whenever those emotional regulations was really needed for me and actually really changed the way I saw them as well. On September 20th, 2017, I was a freshman in high school, and I, as anyone did, really thought that that would just be a normal day for me. I went to PE as normal, I went to English as normal, and I even made it to my math class as normal. But that day was anything but normal. That exact same day, some boy in the same grade as me decided to bring a handgun to school and keep it in his pocket with him throughout the morning. He kept it on him throughout all 3 periods before first lunch, which was when he had lunch, when he then decided to open fire in the cafeteria. Now, keep in mind that throughout this entire story, I'm actually in the math class around the corner from the cafeteria, so I'm not in the cafeteria. But at this point, all I can hear is what sounds like bang, bang, bang on the lockers, and all I can see is just a stampede of students just running out the front door of the building. So at this point, with what we hear and see, which is what I just told you, my teacher's first instinct is to jump up and barricade the door with desks and chairs and usher us to the corner where we all pile up on top of each other and have to proceed to wait for the SWAT team to come and escort us out onto the tennis courts. Now, on the tennis courts, we would then be taken to the elementary school where our parents would pick us up. But while we're at the tennis courts, police end up coming to get student statements as we wait. And as I'm standing there, something interesting happens. Not only am I sitting there waiting to be transported away from this horrific situation that I had just experienced, but as I'm overwhelmed with the shock and fear and overcome with the adrenaline of the situation, one of the worst cherry on top moments of my life occurred just then. I actually ended up getting stung right here by a bee. Now, it's not that big of a deal, but keep in mind this was only my second time being stung by a bee since preschool, and it also happened to be during one of the most horrific times of my life. In the moment, I wasn't really thinking of what I was going through, to be honest, but instead all I was really thinking about was how this bee chose just now, of all times, to sting me. Now, don't get me wrong, I was obviously still very afraid of the situation and what was going to happen and what could have happened, especially since I did not know the updates and everything. But just the simple fact that all of my anger towards the shooter, the situation, my feelings towards it, was directed towards this bee instead, made me really rethink anger as a whole and how we regulate them and process them. Not only did it make me rethink emotional regulation as a whole, but it also made me rethink how we direct anger and how it presents itself in us during specifically dangerous situations. Not only did all my anger in this dangerous situation turn and release itself towards something so small and insignificant compared to the grand scheme of things, but it really overtook me in ways that surprised me at the time and continue to surprise me now. Because of that, I actually, to this day, still am more aware of my emotions, how I have control over them, and where I direct them. And I use them in everyday life where I work with children, where whenever they get out of hand, I think of how their emotions might be redirecting them in their minds, why they might be reacting towards different things differently, and etc. So